Orion at Kings Island is the newest out of the 3 B&M Gigas in the world. This coaster replaced Firehawk in the Area 72 section of the park, and it's kind of themed to space in a sort of way. This ride's blue and white color scheme looks wonderful, and the pure size of this attraction just makes it look even better. In the 1.5 days I spent at Kings Island, I ended up riding this thing 7 times, so I got to ride in the front, back, and middle rows, and got a very good feel for the ride. So today I will be talking about every aspect of this coaster. This ride looks incredible. The blue track on white supports is super clean looking, especially because the paint still looks fresh. And this ride's lack of supports also gives it a freaky look. And the pure size of this lift hill alone is hard to believe. This ride towers above every other coaster in the park and has an overall clean vibe. The station could use a little more, for it has very little theming, but the queue line does make up for it with a nice laboratory theme. The story is a bit loose, but the props in the queue look very nice and more than compromised. Anyways, let's go on to the next section. These trains are the pinnacle of coaster trains. They feel like recliners in a sort of way. The seat wraps around you and hugs your side just like a recliner, and it has a big lap bar that fits very comfortably. These handlebars are also placed in the most optimal spot to feel comfortable. Now, I don't usually hold on to them, but if I were to, I would feel very safe. These lap bars are made of a soft material that you can almost dig your thumbs into and feel it give, which is a very weird feeling. And the seats are made of almost like a plastic material. Unfortunately, these trains do have a seatbelt, but they don't hinder the ride experience whatsoever. You can get away with a lot of airtime room though, because these restraints are ratcheting and the locked positions are very far away from each other. And there were a good few rides that I managed to get about 3 clicks of room, and they're very easy to hold up as well. Anyways, let's stop talking about the trains and actually talk about the ride experience. You start by going up a huge lift hill that is silent and very fast, and if you look to your right, you can see the tops of almost every ride in the park. If you look to your left, you just see trees. It's actually all trees. It's very beautiful. As you crest the lift, you see the drop and feel yourself start to fall. This fall is much higher than I was expecting, and I vividly remember from my first ride thinking the drop was over and then falling for a full another second. And as you finally hit the bottom, there's a slight rattle, but it's not too bad, and then you go up into a very floaty wave turn. It doesn't even feel like you're tilting, you're just kind of floating there, until you eventually level out and go up into the turnaround, where you feel light positives and then come back and go straight into the strongest airtime moment. This little speed hill that gives a pretty decent amount of projector airtime. After this, you go up into a massive floater hill, which is almost identical to one of Diamondback's, which isn't too strong, but it still lifts you up out of your seat. You then go into the Orion's Belt Helix with some decent positives, but I personally didn't think it was anything too special. However, the next element is pretty special. You switch directions and rise up, turning left into a drop that you quickly level out. This airtime is pretty strong, and you get nice laterals exiting the element. You then rise up into a small floater pop of airtime into the brakes, concluding your ride on Orion. This ride is amazing, don't get me wrong, but it isn't perfect. I have 2 complaints. Both are very small nitpicks though. First of all, the pacing doesn't hold up very well. Like when you hit the brakes, you're not going very fast, and that kind of takes away from the intensity of the ride. For example, on a ride like Maverick at Cedar Point or Iron Rattler at Six Flags Fiesta Texas, you hit the brakes going very fast, and it makes the perception of the ride at the end feel so much more intense. Rather than whenever you hit the brakes slower, you don't perceive the ride to be as intense. My other complaint relates to this. This ride isn't very intense. It's very calm and floaty. I tend to prefer rides that feel like you don't have time to breathe. However, this ride is very calm, but that's not what it's going for, so it can be excused. Overall, this ride is great. My complaints were just nitpicking, and they don't really hurt the ride experience. So if I had to give this ride a ranking, I would give it a 9.5 out of 10, which is near perfect. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed this new style of video. Anyways, have a great day, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.